Hey everyone, alright, so we're going to be doing the patch 6.18 rundown. This is going to be the Worlds patch, although I just looked over the size of the patch and it wasn't actually that big, which I'm very surprised for because generally the Worlds patch is really big, and patch 6.17 was also equally as small. Actually, maybe patch 6.17 was a little bit smaller, but definitely this wasn't the size of a patch that I was expecting to see for Worlds. So anyways, we're going to go into it. Now, Yorick, I believe that he will be there, and he's going to be enabled for Worlds, which I really hope, because that's really exciting. The only thing, though, is if he's not actually fine-tuned and balanced properly, he could end up creating a Mordekaiser dynamic that we saw last year, where he's almost banned 100% of the time, and you have Wild Turtle actually killing Imp. I mean, that's not something that you want to have going on. But anyways, Ashe. So one of the most dominating AD carries currently inside of the meta. There have been other AD carries that have been slowly rising up, especially inside of solo queue. But you know, Ashe, Jhin, they're basically the top two right now. Ashe's volley was cooldown was originally tailored for a world where marksman didn't have much access to cooldown reduction, and yeah, so 40% CDR. So W volley cooldown 12 to 4 second scaling to 15 to 5 second scaling. So late game, it doesn't matter as much, but early game, this is pretty brutal to some matchups that Ashe is going to be in. But I don't know necessarily if this type of a nerf is really going to impact her enough to bring her down out of the meta. I don't think that it's going to be. So anyways, Aurelion Sol. Visual bug fix for Aurelion stars. Okay, that's nice. Ekko, base AD down. So the base attack damage from 59 to 55. That's actually pretty big. That's the equivalency of losing 4 AD marks. That's pretty bad. And the reason that I say that this is also pretty bad is because currently the top lane, the 4 kings are Ekko, Gangplank, Shen, and Fiora. And if you really think about who they are, Ekko's ability to punish Gangplank is now diminished a little bit, and his skirmish and dueling ability against Shen and Fiora is also impacted pretty hard. Other people might bring up Gnar, Tom Kench, and a few other champions, but I don't think that they're really in contention with the 4 kings, at least in top right now, especially because of how impactful Ekko is, and also lately the AD variant. Now, the other thing is this actually directly plays into Trinity Force, because Trinity Force goes off of your base AD and not anything else. So this is actually also taking away damage from Trinity Force, which maybe some people aren't going to notice. So W damage down on Gnar, E cooldown up. So Hyper, base damage from 15 to 55, now changed to 10 to 50. That's a little bit difficult. So it looks like Gnar also getting hit. So I mean that's gonna help Ekko at least in the Ekko Gnar matchup. But this is a little bad. If Gangplank doesn't actually get touched, which doesn't look like Gangplank is getting touched, then this is pretty problematic because Gnar actually has a pretty okay matchup against Gangplank, and he is one of the go-tos currently. So anyways, E hop crunch cooldown 18 to 12 second scaling to 22 to 12 second scaling. So again, this is also pretty bad. This is pretty painful, actually, for Gnar and Ekko. So 2 pretty big nerfs to top laners already. Lissandra, health growth stat, 84 to 75. Liss is becoming a frequent pick up in mid lane right now. Basically, mid lane, I think, is the most diverse lane, and I also think that it's the most diverse that it's ever been in the history of League of Legends. There's like 8 or 10 mid laners that are actually viable picks right now, Lissandra being one of them. So this health growth, where she loses 9, you multiply that by 18, and that's pretty big. So pretty painful for Lissandra. I don't know how much this is actually going to impact her in some matchups, but what I do know is that now enemy champions are going to need 1 less skill shot to kill her at a full rotation, basically, at level 5 or level 6, and that can be a very heavy nerf because I don't think there's any way for her to rune or mastery her way around that. Lulu. This is something I was not expecting to see. Glitter Lance slow now lasts the intended duration. So apparently that's a bug fix, which is pretty nice. Lux, this is interesting to see. Lux's E slow increased. Slow 20 to 36% scaling to 25 to 45% not going to be enough to bring Lux really back into the meta. She doesn't really do enough relative to some of the other champions that exist. Xerath is almost always going to outclass her, and even Xerath right now is not really in a spot where he's going to be viable as a pick, and if that's going to be the case, Lux isn't really probably going to be viable either, unless it's in a very, very specific team composition against a very specific team composition. If you're just viewing this from a solo queue perspective, Lux is already bad anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Misfortune. Passive does full damage to turrets. Love tap. Damage to turrets 50% to 100%. That's really, really big. Misfortune, I think, is one of the sleeper AD carries right now. In the sense that I think that she has a lot of viability into some team compositions, and I think that a lot of her damage is going unnoticed right now. I think another AD carry that might potentially show up very big at Worlds is going to be Twitch, although I don't know if anything's happening to him, and this pat doesn't look like it. So there's definitely some AD carries outside of the Sivir, Jhin, Ashe rotation that is so common right now, and sometimes Ezreal, and I think that Misfortune is one of them. So that's going to be pretty good. Nocturne, E-Terrify duration increased. This is kind of nice. 1 to 2 second scaling to 1.25 to 2.25 second scaling. I think this does definitely have an interaction given his attack speed. So I guess he's granted one more auto attack or so on targets that he ends up fearing off of his ultimate, which that can be pretty big. But I don't think it's going to be enough to make Nocturne come back into the jungle. Right now, the jungle is basically dominated by Nidalee, Elise, Gragas, not really so viable anymore. Rek'Sai is an absolute powerhouse. Evelynn will be making a return for Worlds. If she doesn't, I will be super, super surprised, and I don't know what sort of a bet I would make with the public, but Evelynn needs to actually come back for Worlds, especially with the changes that we've had to the lane swap meta in the most recent patches, because Evelynn is just so strong right now. More nerfs to Rek'Sai. Base armor 28.3 to 24, so Rek'Sai loses 4 of her armor seals, or if she's not running them, I guess that she can get a way around this, but just by running 4 armor seals and then 5 scaling HP, which isn't so bad. It still gives you almost a ruby crystal in terms of HP efficiency. Armor growth stat 3.75 to 3.4, so 0.35 loss per level. That's pretty big. So what, you lose 9 armor now at max level? That I guess that's pretty problematic. And I'm not seeing Rek'Sai is just going 9 scaling HP seals to work around that. So, you know, more nerfs to Rek'Sai, buff to Nocturne, but I don't think that does anything. This is definitely just going to promote even more the Elise Nidalee dynamic. Vi, some people have talked about whether or not she could come back. I think that maybe she can. I think that Zac is also a very, very heavy contender for a frequent pick at Worlds. But most interestingly, I think that we can expect to see Evelynn, and so Rek'Sai nerfs are definitely going to aid in that as well. Ryze. Realm Warp's rank 1 tooltip and indicator have been fixed. Okay, so that's just a bug fix. That's pretty nice. Shen, passive shield and Q damage decrease. So another hit to one of the 4 kings right now in top lane. So base shield 52 to 120 scaling to 50 to 101. That's pretty bad. That's actually really, really bad. Because that means that Shen might lose about 100 HP in a late game team fight, which that's gigantic. Or, you know, that means that Shen could lose 100 HP in a late game split push duel. So I think that, you know, that's a pretty big nerf. Damage, 3% to 5% of the target's maximum health to 2 to 4% of the target's maximum health. So Shen can potentially lose 50 damage on some late game duels. That is pretty big. Enhanced damage, 5 to 7% of the target's maximum health to 4 to 6%. So, I mean, again, it's basically the same exact thing. But per hit, I mean, the fact that he's getting absolutely just gouged for 150 damage, potentially, on some targets, that is pretty problematic. Taliyah. Q no longer deals bonus damage to minions, E damage down. Okay. Bonus damage from minion 50% removed. This is definitely going to hurt her in some of her matchups, and it's going to open up a lot more counterplay against her. One of the things that she's really, really good at right now is taming some of the very powerful mid laners. However, she has very, very bad matchups against like Syndra and some other mid lane champions right now, and so any sort of nerf against her is definitely going to impact her greatly, and it's going to reduce her ability to be blind picked. So that's nice. Unraveled Earth damage, 80 to 180 scaling, 70 to 150. That's pretty problematic as well, but I don't think that it's as problematic given how Taliyah itemizes. She's more so utility and heavy control late game with the ability to deal a lot of burst. Very similarly to Xerath, where all of her burst doesn't need to actually come inside of one rotation. Okay, Vladimir. This is pretty painful because I know that Vladimir is still a very popular pick amongst some people, but honestly, Korea determined that he was trash a while ago. Still okay for solo queue, but maybe not after these nerfs. Let me read them. Base HP 550 to 525. That's not so bad. Transfusion 40 to 240 scaling to 30 to 200. That's pretty bad. You can almost guarantee that Vladimir is going to lose 300 HP in a late, 300 HP in a late game extended team fight, and definitely he's going to probably miss about 80 to 100 during laning phases. So that's pretty bad on a transfusion. Tides of Blood, 2.5% to 10% max health. So anyways, the cooldown is now changed to 9 to 5 second scaling to 13 to 5 seconds. So late game, it's going to be fine, but early game, this is definitely going to be problematic, and I don't think there's going to be a way for Vladimir's to, work around that with runes and masteries or any sort of itemization build with how he currently builds. So very, very big heavy hit to Vladimir and a heavy hit to Taliyah. So this is going to further promote Syndra play, Aurelion Sol play, Malzahar, Victor. Victor loves this. Especially with, his brother gone, Azir. So, more dominance for him potentially in the mid lane. Yasuo, less attack speed per level, higher base attack speed. R's bonus penetration only applies to crits. Base attack speed's 0.658 to 0.607, okay. Attack speed growth stat 3.2 to 2.5%. I can't do math in my head right now, so I don't know exactly what that rounds out to in the very end. Deep breathing, bonus armor penetration now applies to Yasuo's critical strikes. That's pretty problematic. So I guess he's getting sliced quite a bit. Now, Yasuo is not a champion that I expect to see at Worlds. Even if it is going to be the tank Yasuo variant, which is mentioned right here. Tank Yasuo is the best variation of him that currently does exist, because it's extremely problematic to play against late game, and your only chance at really stopping it is inside of a 5v5. But if he just manages to delete someone instantly, then it's just not good. So, Frozen Mallet, build path is now changed to Jerome's Fist plus Giant's Belt plus 900 gold, total cost unchanged, attack damage 40 to 30, health 650 to 700. So, you trade off 10 damage for 50 more HP, which I think is a benefit. Obviously, some champions won't like this, such as like Jax or something, but if you're going to be getting this on like Kog'Maw or something, for instance, as like a 5th or a 6th item, he's definitely going to be a little bit more happy with the 50 HP. Over anything else. Relic Shield, Spoils of War heal 20 to 50. Honestly, that's not really going to do too much. Maybe a support ends up losing 50 HP during the laning phase, but generally all-ins are not going to be decided by 50 HP, even though they can in some instances. Invulnerability HUD, I actually really like this. I really like that. Rank Decay, Challenger Master Tier players will need to play more often to defend their standings. Okay. Players can store up to 10 banked games of Decay immunity. Each day, 1 bank game is removed from the player's reserve. Starting when the number of bank game reaches 0, players incur 100 points of LP Decay per day until they bank additional games of Decay immunity. Bank games are tracked on the Leagues tab, members only, Decay rule. Okay, that's sort of nice, but I don't know. That's certainly not going to fix the problem that is currently present inside of NA and EU solo queue. Okay, so bug fixes. Okay. This is pretty big on Trundle because Trundle is one of the better top laners that definitely has potency right now. Classes, okay. 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 I'm not seeing anything super big. Oh, I guess that's pretty big. Oh, this is really big. Oh, this is really big. This is basically buffing Fizz. I mean, not just Fizz, but other champions. So anyways, I will be doing a patch 6.18 tier list, both for solo queue and for Worlds and what we can expect to see, but the latter one will come out right before Worlds is going to kick off and start. So, hope you enjoyed the rundown, and I hope I put some stuff into perspective for you. And yeah, overall, I think the meta, this is probably going to be the most solved and figured out Worlds that we've had, due to the fact that 6.17 was small, 6.18 was small, and these changes are all pretty fair without throwing any, wrenches into the mix. Unless, of course, Yorick is actually enabled for Worlds. If that's the case, this could be a potential dark horse in terms of a champion that could end up causing problems on an equal scale relative to Mordekaiser last year. So, that's it. All right.